Hi, everyone. Dr. Victoria Skirbo here from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. And I am here with my friend, Reverend Denise Roberge from One Mind Spiritual Services. Of course, you've met Denise before. Say hi, Denise.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Raise the energy, Denise. Raise the
Woo!
energy.
I'm pumped today, so I'm going to pump everybody else up.
Well, that's good because I could use a little.
I'll be the pump.
Well, oh God, no, don't say.
Be it that way, you freshie.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, I had never heard that expression until I came to Massachusetts. I think it's a Massachusetts or a New England thing, but we're not going to go there. Let's go somewhere much higher than that.
Okay.
So yesterday we just had our solstice. We are now officially here in the Northern Hemisphere in the winter season. And we had a very powerful conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius. It had moved out of Saturn, had moved out of Capricorn last week, and you felt it, didn't you?
Yeah, yes, I was amazed when I told you last night. I said, just one day last week, I felt this amazing lift, like energy was grabbed off my back and taken away. I felt this freedom, it was beautiful. And I had been having some dark moments that previous couple of weeks.
Well, I mean,
Releasing moments. I'm going to call them releasing moments.
I like that. Yeah, releasing sounds good. And of course, 2020 has been a real journey through. It's been a real dark night of the soul for many people. So
Well, for the collective too.
yeah. Well, especially.
Especially.
We have had our dark nights of the soul over the years. We've known each other long enough to have had to hold each other's hand through those.
Yeah.
And just call to make sure you're right, that kind of stuff. Which sometimes when you're going through that, that's all you need to hear. You don't want to talk about anything else. You just want to know that there's somebody out there sort of.
We're touchstones for each other. And I don't even have to process so much with you as I do just hear your voice and you say one or two things, usually very gently, that shifts me. It just shifts you have an ability to shift my vibration and my attitude and my mode of thought with just one or two words. You're a very amazing healer that way. And if you ever decided you wanted to be like a psychotherapist, you'd be really good at it, because you don't lose your shit when I lose mine. When I lose mine, you just go, you're oming while I'm flipping, and your oming eventually catches me. And I go, oh yeah, I can ohm too. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
ohm.
Well, I think that was a lot of practice having a hysterical mother, for the most part. I mean,
The lessons you learned from your mother, aren't they amazing? I've learned a lot from my mom too.
right.
Yeah,
Well,
one of our greatest teachers.
Well, I have, I often talk to my clients about their relationship, the female clients, which incidentally, most of my clients are female,
Mhm.
right?
Most of mine are too.
Yes, it is the feminine or the females that are really sort of leading us into this new age,
Amen.
um, because they're much more open to the alternative, to the story that's always told as to what our reality is. Women generally have a different sense, not all women, but I find that they're usually much more open to other possibilities. And I think that could be part of the fact that we're not afforded, and of course here I am, a well-educated white woman saying this, so
Right.
it's even more so for people not in my position, but we're not always afforded the same benefits as men in
Mhm.
general. I always say you have to work twice as hard to make half as much, but I'm going to start not saying that because
Good.
I think
You don't want to project that
well,
vibration.
that was the past.
Yeah,
That was the past paradigm, and the paradigm has shifted, and you felt it.
I sure did. I feel like I feel so much lighter. I feel like I dropped 40 pounds in the last
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing there. And it's funny how I feel what I feel the stuff, that the energetic shifts usually a hair before you
Yes,
come up with it on your, maybe a half a day or a day or
yes,
2 days before it comes out. And then I hear it and I'm like, that's what happened to me the
that's
other day.
right.
That's what it was. And so I think I feel I feel astrology in my bones. It's like I was raised by an astrologer.
Right.
So my mom was an amazing astrologer. She got so psychic during doing astrology that she was a Catholic, and she felt that she began dancing with the devil because she knew stuff that she had no way of knowing, and was always in a conundrum. You know, is this something I say or don't say? I mean,
Mhm.
it really messed her up. So she ended up giving it up.
You know, it's interesting.
That was in the 60s and 70s. That was a long time ago.
Right, but it's interesting how like one of the things that you do for a living is you read people's energy, you work with people's energy, you work with the cards, and your mother like dabbled and was very good, of course, but could not bring herself, right? And I think that that energy of mothers and daughters is an interesting
It is.
energy in that oftentimes I feel mothers raise their daughters with an eye to the past and or their experience, like their experience. So, but we evolve, and I think that it makes it both. There's always, I think, a push pull between the mother and the daughter. The mother
Oh,
wants to keep the daughter safe. The mother wants, most of the time. I mean, there are some situations where that's not the case, but I
mhm.
think your average person, they want to keep their daughter safe. They want to make sure that they're going to be taken care of in the future, and their vision of what it means to be taken care of in the future is often different than the daughter. And
Mhm,
I think, and part of that is because society
mhm.
does evolve. But I've always sort of been somebody who poo-pooed all of that stuff and just sort of went on and did my own thing, and just sort of poured it out there, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is who I am. And
You've got something Aquarian in your chart, right?
yes, I have Uranus on my ascendant, which is the ruler of Aquarius, and I have a south node in Aquarius. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. I'm a
Oh,
rebellious
yeah.
sort.
Well, I have a very powerful ascendant in Aquarius.
Yes, you do. And that's why that's kind
And I
of
think
why
that's why I'm starting to feel like I'm more myself now.
well, sure, because, well, yes, Saturn is moving toward in your chart. Jupiter and Saturn are moving out of your 12th house. The 12th house is always a very challenging house, and into your first house of who you are. So you get to sort of, it's like being reborn, really, for
Yeah,
you.
I feel that way.
And I know you feel it because the labor pains of rebirthing yourself have been I know, very hard for you,
Very acute,
and
yes.
very cute, and also but you still, like, you do it.
I do it.
You do it. I mean, no matter how bad it gets or scary it gets, you push forward. You push
Yes, I do.
forward.
I know that I know enough about the nature of reality to know that even when I feel that way, that I'm not dying, I am not going crazy, I am not uh, I'm not getting mentally ill. I've been through it so many times that I know it's just how I process.
Right.
And I just sit there and I go, oh, I can't wait till this is over. And I know, always know it's going to end. I
Yeah.
always know while I'm going through it, this sucks, but it's going to be over. You know, and I always pull through. And those last labor pains I had that you walked me through, and I'm so grateful you were there for me. Um, were extremely painful. What it was like was, we heal in spirals,
Yeah.
and I have gone around these same wounds so many times that there's a fucking groove. I'm just being myself. This is how Vicki and I talk. I don't usually talk like this on air, but anyway, there's groove.
I bring it out in her.
She brings out the F bombs in me. I don't know what it is, but so I go around, we go around and we heal one issue at, all through the spiral. And then 2 years later, a year later, 6 months later, whatever, we go through that same thing, but we create a deeper groove and we're getting closer and closer to the center. And I think that this last round of unworthiness, feeling alone, feeling like I have no friends, feeling not good enough, blah, 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 all that typical, pretty much typical stuff. I think I'm getting almost to the core of it now. I think that I've released almost to the core. Not to say it'll never crop up again, but those things are absolutely on their way out.
Yes.
You've watched my many runs through those spirals. I've had a whole bunch of runs through those same spirals, and you've seen it. And when I'm over it, I'm like, well, now I know that's not really true.
Yeah.
So
I,
when I'm in it, the next time I can go, well, this isn't really true. You're just releasing. You're letting go of something that no longer serves. So cry your little eyes out and feel miserable and take care of yourself and you'll get over it. And I
yeah.
always get over it.
Yeah.
I have a lot of tools though. I have to work at it. It's not just like I sit back and go, oh, this is just going to go away. I have work to do. It's work.
Well, I think as I understand it, it is spiral, but I would spiral it up, right? You like I would. This is I. So we go over the same
And we move up.
territory. Yeah, we go over the same territory, but we're not stuck in it as long as we were before, and
Absolutely.
we have a higher perspective. So
Yes.
it's as if like we start like this, and then we gradually, right? And you're never going to get until you completely merge with all that is, and that is
Until we're in our completed state, there will always
right,
be something to do.
right. And even when we get there, we don't know, there's probably another state. There's always a, but
Well, there's
it's
always a movement toward the creator,
center,
center, the creator, the
center, the
symbol sign,
creator.
whatever people want
Right,
to call it. Yeah.
right. And I
The
think
infinite
that,
field of possibilities for the physics people out there.
yeah, there you go.
Infinite
um
quantum field.
or the in Kabbalah, it's Kether, the crown. Beyond that is the nothingness.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's going back from whence we came, right? It's
Yes.
the evolutionary process.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, so I think these circles tighten. I think we see things faster, and but the issues are going to be there. As a Capricorn
As
for
a triple,
yourself, like
triple
that's like,
Capricorn.
well, no, you're a triple. You have your sun, moon, and Mercury in Capricorn, right? So you're a triple Capricorn. And this Saturn energy in Capricorn is and with Pluto and Jupiter, and everything was there. Everything was piled up in Capricorn. And for,
Yes.
and for you, I believe that's all in your 12th house. So the 12th house in a chart is it's a karmic house. It's a house where we like store stuff that we have yet to let go of. And so you have been moving through that, and you still have Pluto there, so you're not quite done. But I think
When
that,
does Pluto get the hell out of there? Tell me.
oh, for a
Ever?
while, it's no, yeah,
Will
for
it
a
happen
while.
before I die?
Unless you die tomorrow, probably. I don't know.
It's not one of those things that takes 800 years, right?
No. No, Pluto is going to be going into Aquarius in 2024, I think, the first time it'll go into Aquarius. But we still have a couple of years with Pluto in Capricorn.
Mhm.
And of course, Pluto is an energy of transformation, and Capricorn is structural. So we're still going to go through this structural change, within ourselves, within society. How do we, and it needs to be restructured, because
Mhm.
as the structure stands now, even in our own life, as the structure stands in our life, can we maintain ourselves with that structure?
Mhm.
Chances are no.
Mhm.
Chances are no. There has to be some change and shift, and that's going to happen in the case of a person where Pluto and Capricorn is sitting in their chart. In your case, Pluto and Capricorn is sitting in your 12th house. So there's almost like a restructuring of the spiritual,
Mhm.
or the way that you connect with spirit, or we're still not really sure because the 12th house is very hidden. Now, for me, it's in my 6th house, which is health and service. So, what's going to change in my life is I need to change my how I'm treating my body, right?
Mhm.
Whatever that means. That could mean what I eat, how much rest I get, how much stress I'm under. I have to figure out ways to make my life work better for me and be kinder to my body,
Mhm.
right? That's part of it. And then a restructuring of my service to others. So we can, that Pluto energy is there for a while. And the nice thing about the Pluto energy now is because it's kind of all by itself, kind of. Um, it can happen. It can happen. Pluto tends to move slow,
Mhm.
and so we have an opportunity to adapt to the energy of Pluto.
Mhm.
But with Saturn and Jupiter and all the other stuff happening in 2020 in that sign, it was like we had a giant boulder on our head. In fact, I spoke to a client of mine who's been a client for a number of years, and she called, she contacted me, and I was like, oh, so I looked at her chart and I was like, oh my God. Right. So as soon as we, got on Zoom, I'm like, so what the F's been happening in your life? And she was just like, I feel like I'm getting crushed, is what she said.
Wow.
And I said, well, you have been. She has Pluto on her ascendant, and she had all that Capricorn and
Oh,
all that Capricorn energy, just like you, in her 12th house.
oh, wow.
So it's like, oh, but now when you say you feel this release, right? That was in part that was the social planets, Jupiter and Saturn moving out of Capricorn and
Mhm.
into the much more Capricorn is very much uh, energy of up and down, right? It's like the base of power, the few and then the many at the top. Well, Aquarius is much more. The energy is much more. Um, so we're no longer sort of striving for the top as much as we're distributing the energy evenly.
Okay.
So
So now would be a time that we're very concerned with everything that's going on around the globe, as opposed to what's all going on inside of us personally, or just our country. We'd be more interested in more humanitarian
Well,
things
yeah,
across
I think
the
I
globe.
think what has happened is there was this sort of like push through, almost like a plant pushing through the earth, right? So there was this push through, and we had to get through the crust, and that crust was Capricorn. Capricorn is like
We're
earth. It's like
crusty.
stone. It's like,
We're a little crusty.
well, it's funny because you're a Capricorn and I'm a Cancer, and one of my friends, her nickname for me is Krusty, right?
Well, you cancers are soft as mush inside, but can
Inside, but getting in
inside,
there,
but you get those little pinchers that are crunchy. They do crunch things, and yeah,
we have a hard shell.
you do.
So yeah, so
I know.
it's hard to get
I've
in.
seen it.
I know a lot of people have, but it's our protection. So
Yeah,
you know how it is.
I
Um,
do.
but within every Capricorn is a Cancer, and within every Cancer is a captain of industry Capricorn. So
Mhm.
we're not all that different. We're both
No.
we're both as signs seeking security. But as far as the energy, I feel like this whole like Capricorn thing was this pushing through, and now that we're on the other side of that energetic boundary, as it were. Now we get to, it's almost like you get to, now we got to experience what it's like to be in this new energy. And people, I think, could feel confused. People can feel ungrounded. Things are not going to really slow down for people. Things are going to start to
Well, there's a
really.
lot of adaptation going on, which takes a lot of work and a lot of focus and energy to adapt, just to recalibrate to the new energies and the new systems and the new ways of doing things. That takes recalibration. I'm in the at the very beginning phase of completely restructuring how I do business.
Right.
I hired somebody and we're working on completely rebranding, coming up with forms, coming up with structures, coming up with a foundational system that's, virtual,
Right.
basically
Well,
centered
that's
on
that's
virtual.
also very Aquarius.
Yeah.
Structuring within the virtual world,
Ah.
so that people can, because ultimately Aquarius is about distribution of knowledge.
Ah.
When the
Well,
water
I
bear,
need to make it easier for me to get my work out, and this is my words out, and that's the way it needs to be.
right, it's all about really how we inform it. The water bearer holds the water thing, right, and the water's pouring out. That's knowledge. And so with all this Aquarius energy, it's about us getting what we know out there. It's about information. It's about light. Information is light. Information enlightens. And
Mhm.
then of course there's this, is it true? Is it false? Is it true? Is it false? The energy of the heart never lies. The energy of the mind can.
Mhm.
And so if you're coming from a heart-centered place,
So when your heart mind, and some people refer to that connection as the heart mind, when your heart mind is in alignment, that's when you're in your truth and in your center and operating with integrity, right? Wouldn't you say?
yes, one of my teachers would say, um, it's about loving with the mind and thinking with the heart,
I love
right?
that.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yes.
that alignment. In fact, when you're in your heart, your brain waves and your EKG will go into sync with each other,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah,
of
they become
course,
coherent. That I had a friend who practiced heart math. Um, I cannot speak to it with any kind of like knowledge, except to say that they actually put there's some kind of a thing you put on your hand or something, and it measures um, what's going on with the heart mind, and when it's all erratic, it's when they're not in sync. And so every time it's like a lie detector test. It can tell when your heart mind's out of alignment, and it's all about heart coherence. And they measure it somehow. It's a technology. They measure it somehow, and every time you go on it, all you strive to do is to watch the lines change a certain way and get to this place. It's very technological, so honestly, I'm not good
yes,
at
yeah,
explaining it,
right.
but
No,
it,
yeah,
it, it can be measured. The heart and the mind stuff can be measured. So they teach you how to continuously drop into your heart. That's basically what the deal is.
right. It has to do
In a
like
simple,
it has to do with the toroid field, right? The
maybe.
field of energy, that so the toroid field is like a giant donut energy, and it's centered in the heart. That's where the most that's so we're really run by our heart
Yeah.
center as human beings.
And that's what when we get into trouble when we're only operating from our mind. That's when we
Well,
go off.
the mind is a prison.
You got
When
that right.
you question your own worth, when you question, am I good enough, or did I do enough, or what's wrong with me, all of that stuff is not heart centered. It
No.
all comes from the mind, and
Yeah.
a lot of it is conditioned. We just had that discussion, right, about
Mhm.
family not supporting your singing career.
My non-singing career is more likely, but that's okay.
So just to be clear on that and not get anybody too upset, um, Denise loves to sing and she sings and dances all the time, but her family doesn't necessarily see her talent. And I think we can all kind of appreciate that. But it's okay. It doesn't matter. Denise
That doesn't matter to me at all
doesn't
because
matter to Denise. She's gonna
it's a
sing.
vibrational experience for me that's beyond, it's beautiful. When I sing, I feel glorious. When I dance, I go to heaven or whatever that place is. And it's a spiritual practice for me. Those are spiritual practices. So when I end up doing it in public, people don't know that side of me. I don't show that
No,
side of
you don't. Not important.
I'm a Capricorn, I usually play the role that people expect me to play. And if I can't play a role, I just behave. I just go, just behave and follow everybody else's
Oh
lead.
my God, I do not do that.
When I cut loose though, at a wedding or at a big party and there's music and I cut loose and I'm all over the dance floor, people gather in groups and they're pointing at me. And they're like, look at her. And the ones that love me and understand me, they go, Denise, it's so beautiful to watch you go free, set yourself free. We see your freedom, we see the glory, and the people that understand it think it's fabulous that I can do that, because I carry a relatively, I'm a larger sized woman, and people expect larger sized women to kind of rein it in and not make a scene and not, and fuck that,
Now,
I'm
I just want to say something to you, Denise.
okay.
And then I want to tell you a story. When Denise used to do this thing called the Metaphysical Network.
Oh, and it's coming back on YouTube.
Oh, awesome. All right.
Yes,
So
it's going to be reborn again on
I like
virtual
that.
reality.
I
Yes,
love that the Metaphysical Network. But before, like now it's going to be virtual, but it was an actual
like in
thing where
person.
people would get together in person, and you'd have me, you'd have other healers, and they would do these talks for people, and it was a way to network and connect, like-minded people. And I used to do my astrology, and she used to give me, and I just want you to know, she gave me, was it 5? I could drop 5 F-bombs during my and now she's dropping them like she's me. I don't know.
Becoming a Cancer.
There's been actually I don't think the F-bombs come from being a Cancer. I think the F-bombs come from being from New Jersey. So I hate to tell you, but
I hate to tell you, but us people that have grown up around Boston are pretty effing familiar with the F-bomb. Do you understand what I'm saying?
well, it's funny because one time
We're pretty effing into the F-bomb around here.
let me tell you another story that I wasn't going to tell you, but I'll tell you the story first.
Okay.
When I first came to Massachusetts, I was dating a fellow student who was from Boston originally, and his family lived on the South Shore. And
not Southie, not Southie, South
no,
Shore.
not Southie. No, they weren't from Southie. They were from West Roxbury, I think. They were from West Roxbury, his family.
I think it's time to raise our pinky to West Roxbury.
Okay, except I don't. Okay, well, I'll just do this because I didn't bring her a cup of tea with me. Well, you drink for both of us. And so I'm sitting there listening to him and his brother have a conversation in their kitchen, and every other word was the F-bomb.
That's how it is.
Right. And I looked over and I said, what would you guys talk about if you didn't have F as one, like every other word, like instead of like a 15-minute conversation, it'd be a 2-minute conversation because you couldn't use the F-bomb. So I do agree with you on that one. But now there was another story I wanted to tell you that I can't seem to. The F-bomb story took over. Sorry about that. Yeah. So we're kind of all like in this sort of new energy, this new paradigm. And while it feels better than what we were in, it's still unfamiliar, and not necessarily for people who sort of vibe.
Oh no, it's going to take calibration for everybody. Everyone's recalibrating, and that takes work.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'd just like to mention, because you keep talking about paradigm and the new paradigm, and we're in the name of my book that is still being written is called the next age paradigm.
Yes.
So that book is going to be about from what's been going on in the last 6 months to a year, and how we've shifted. But a year ago, I wrote the thesis, and I got my publisher, and I began writing and all that. But people weren't ready for the next age yet. They were still mired in this age,
Right.
and still dealing with the effects of the old traditions and whatnot. So this is the year it needs to be out. And I have people that donated to my publisher campaign. If anyone's listening, you will get a book, I promise. I had the idea a year ago, but it wasn't the right time to finish it. Yeah. And it's coming. The time to finish this book is now coming, because I had to go through everything I had to go through and learn everything I had to learn in order to write the stuff that people need to hear.
Right.
So that's just how I could have written it a year ago, but it would be a different book than what I would write now. And
I
the book
think,
that I would write now is what needs to be written.
well, I think we all had to go through what I would call the birth canal of the COVID experience. I mean,
Yep.
and whatever.
Oh, and I had a knee replacement
That's right.
at the same time, and I could go on about health stuff,
No,
but I won't.
you won't.
But I mean, it was, yeah. I
Yeah.
had twins. I had twins,
Well, it's interesting, of course,
triplets.
because Capricorn rules the knees, right?
Yeah.
You had knee, and I had when Saturn went into Capricorn, I had my first like toothache in like 40 years, and so I had to get a tooth pulled, and I broke out in a rash that was so bad all over myself, all over my body, and the skin is ruled by Saturn and Capricorn as well, and I looked like a snake. I looked like my skin looked like a snake. That's how bad it was. And then it went away, healed, like almost miraculously. So, we all were going through some sort of physical expression of and a release. All of that
All
stuff.
of it's release. All of it's
It
release.
is
All of
release.
it is the thing that we cannot cognate and put into words and clear pictures what needs to be released. Some of it is sitting so densely in our bodies because it came to us, whatever the wound was, came to us before we were able to speak, or when we were first learning to speak, or it was so traumatic that we refused to let ourselves remember it. But it sits in issues in the tissues, it sits in the teeth and in the bones and in the structures. And it's not it's just how it is. And as each individual sign has its certain type of experience of physicality, I had in the knee. So a lot of trauma that I had in my lifetime landed in my knees, and it's not only my knees, it's elsewhere as well. But so there was no other way. I could not process through. This was probably pre-birth trauma that was in my knee,
Well, it's interesting
or maybe the
because
first 2 or 3 years of my life. I had no words, so the only way that I could release it was through surgery. And it's unfortunate because I'm not a big allopathic medicine person. I'm not. This was not my first. This was the last resort. I could no longer walk by the time I had this done. I mean, I was in agony all the time. I tried everything. I was in PT, doing PT, no matter how hard it hurt. I was going to different types of doctors and getting all kinds of opinions. Finally, I went, I'm just going to get a new knee.
yeah.
That's what I
Well,
need to do.
well, metaphysically, the knee is our ability to humble ourselves, right? And
Hmm.
so, what needs to be humbled in this situation? Your ego. And so, it's like it's a
I don't know.
no,
Really?
no. Let me finish. Let me finish what I want to say.
Okay.
It's the ego is the part of you that says you're not good enough. You're not. That's what I mean by ego. It's the part that's
The
judging.
negative talking ego. The
Right. It has
negative
to,
self-talk.
it had to surrender to the soul. And the soul is the place of love, right? And so sometimes it takes an operation
Mhm.
um, to release it. It's like the pound of flesh. The pound of flesh. For me, my pound of flesh was my tooth and a lot of skin cells. But
Well, you had that Lyme disease too. That was a long, hard road. You
well, I mean
had a
that's
lot of
something.
releasing through that too.
Well, yeah, that was more Lyme disease for me. The first time I was diagnosed with it, I had um, Neptune was opposing my Mars in my chart. Mars is your energy, and Neptune can sap that, right? It can sap, and so I had no. So every time I tried to do something, it was like I just
Or
didn't. there was just things were just like it was definitely and Lyme for me was a lesson in feeling like a victim, feeling
Mm,
like a victim, and then coming to realize uh, I judged people myself who felt like they were being victimized by life. Like I would thought that was a weakness. But
right.
then I had to experience that sort of you don't have any choice but to be sick right now. And and I had more compassion for the people in that position. I always
Mhm,
judged people who talked about having Lyme disease as the focus for all their problems. And
mhm.
then I got Lyme disease and I realized that there's a certain amount of truth to that. And so I've had to, change the way I do things. I can't do what I used to do physically as much as, because I was like,
It
dawn,
was tough.
dusk to dawn, just put your head down and do what you have to do.
Yeah.
Physically, it was always very physical. Even as a doctor, I did very physical things. So it wasn't like, I was a doctor, I don't know, just sitting across from a patient asking them how
No, you're on people's bodies and
I was
and
jumping around
moving
and
stuff and cracking things and
yeah, so so that, part of that had to change too with that. So I think that that stuff teaches us lessons and it
you
comes
think
into
no, do you think that that helped you to switch gears from being really identified as a chiropractor to being really identified as an astrologer, kabbalist, numerologist? Do you think that that helped switch, helped you bridge that?
I think it you probably yeah. Yeah, I'd say. And looking at the process of dis-ease or disease or you know uh getting your knee done or whatever arthritis, whatever your issue is, whatever physical ailment that you have, there's a lesson in it.
Oh,
There's
absolutely.
always a lesson in it. And
Yes.
what is it trying to show you? What aren't you paying attention to? And for me, I wasn't paying attention, of course, to myself.
Mm,
I wasn't considering that I had a limitation. And so the universe comes in and says, well, here's your limitation. Now, what are you going to do with it? And, luckily it did develop into as being the person that I am, being the person that's always like has to do something, you know,
important.
well, something that I feel in my own
Both.
inspired to do.
Right.
And it gave me space to do the work that I love because I've always loved as soon as I started astrology, I loved it. It was like falling into the most comfortable pair of shoes you ever owned, and then a nice comfy robe. Like I felt like, this is great,
Yep.
Um, so, the one thing that Lyme did, another thing that Lyme did is it messes up your memory. I still
Mhm.
don't have the memory I had before. I'm not sure. I don't think it's
That's
probably
funny because I still, even since the post Lyme, I see you as a woman that with as a mind with a that has a mind with like a steel trap. You remember details in astrology that I you can tell me how many times what I have in my 12th house. I'm still not going to remember it the next time it came up. It's not. It doesn't. I feel it, but now I have a feeling about the 12th house that I'll probably remember. But you just all the details that you remember are amazing to me.
yeah.
Amazing, amazing. I don't think it took away a whole lot. I think it took away maybe the stuff that's less significant, but not the stuff that's most significant to remember.
Well, like I said, people go, "How do you remember all that stuff?" I was like, "Well, I don't know, but don't ask me to find my keys because I ain't gonna find them."
I hear you. I hear you. So where do we want to go from here? I think we probably have about if we I don't remember. Do you know what time it was when we started? Was it 11? I think it was about 11.
Maybe, yeah.
We got on about quarter of, and then we talked for a little while. So it's 20 of now, 20 of 12. So I would say we could take another 15, 10, 15 minutes. Is there anything else on the plate? We had a few ideas. Are you feeling something that should come up now?
Your Capricorn is showing, Denise,
That's
just so you
okay.
know.
I love my Capricorn now.
Hey, I got Capricorn too, so it's good. It's all good. So I don't know. I think we were talking about pre-call here. We were talking about our spiritual awakenings. We thought of that as being an issue. We also talked about addiction as being something we might want to talk about. You just did a video on addiction, didn't you?
I did. I did a short video on the addict as seeker.
Yes.
And I expressed great love for addicts in that. And since I made that video, maybe it's because I'm attuned to the topic, but all the teachers are talking about addiction. It seems like all the big teachers that I follow on YouTube or email or whatever, everyone's talking about addiction. And there is, in the new age, there is now an attitude among the highest vibrational thinkers of this time, that absolute radical love and acceptance of addicts for being on a spiritual path, that and acceptance of their path, like radical acceptance of the fact that they chose to be addicts. Those are the lessons they chose to learn in this lifetime, and we can honor them. Now, that being said, just as with any other potentially divisive, difficult issue, if the addict impacts your life and they're stealing your jewelry and hawking it for drugs, you have every right in the world to stand up for yourself and do what you have to do to be treated with respect and fairly. No one's saying love all the behavior, but the
Yes,
idea,
you don't love the action of the addict, you love the addict.
right?
It's like when
They say in it, and they say it in the 12 steps, love the addict, hate the disease.
right.
That's a common phrase in the 12-step community.
You know what? I think that maybe that has to change, and I'm not in any kind of 12-step community, and I might
I'm not anymore
I
either, but I
might
used
get,
to be.
if you don't mind me saying shit for this. Love the addict, hate the disease. I think that you have to see the disease, and I think this is part of what your, perhaps part of what your realizations are about this, but you certainly fill in. Um, that the disease serves, just like my Lyme disease served.
Absolutely.
Right.
100% right on, right on, right on.
Right. So, what do you think the core issue is around addiction? What is it that drives people to become addicted to anything?
Um, Two things, lack of um, positive role models, such as in parenting or whoever raises the child, the inability the parents' inability to express safety and love, like I love you and I'm going to keep you safe, is one. Um, Now we're talking more now in the physical, from the spiritual upper realms. When a person chooses somehow, makes the choice beforehand that they're going to experience addiction in order to expand their soul. I think those reasons might be a little different, but I think the things that impact and are part of the journey for any addict: lack of mothering, lack of nurturing, um, and being lost and having no spiritual direction, no guidance, no. And actually, there's a third one: the seeking of transcendence and wisdom is big in every addict. Most addicts, including, in which I include everything: alcohol, pornography, whatever the food, whatever the addiction is, are seeking spiritual truth and seeking wisdom and seeking transcendence. Um, so their impulses to rise up is the primary reason for wanting to get out of their head. They know they have to get out of their head in some fashion in order to attain and reach for the loftier understanding of life, and the macro vision as opposed to the micro vision of what life is. And they're just misguided. They hadn't been given too many other
There's
choices.
no tools. There's
There's no
no
tools.
tools
And
for
so that was like the first time you speak to, if you ever speak to an addict, a real true blue addict or true blue alcoholic, they'll tell you the first time they took their drug of choice, whatever that was, they felt like all was right with the world.
Yeah.
They felt like, this is it. This is what I've been seeking my whole life. This feeling of calm, of peace, of bliss, of joy, of happiness, of social inclusion, of having friends, of belonging to a group, of being seen as becoming visible as opposed to invisible. Many addicts grew up feeling completely invisible. And then they find this group of people that are all using drugs and all getting high and feeling either happy and joyous or comfortable or whatever it is that they're feeling. And they're like part of a group now. They have a family. They exchange their family of origin with their family of drug users. And that gives them an identity.
And then when they get into the 12 step, would you say that they trade that family for a different family?
Well, what happens is their ideas about drugs being the answer, alcohol being the answer, or sex addiction being the answer, it comes around to where it starts to eat them up.
Right.
And it's like self cannibalism. And if
Oh,
when they get the desire to stop hurting themselves and they end up in a program, very often they do transfer addictions at the beginning. And it's very encouraged when people enter a 12-step program or even an institutional program, like a rehab or detox or whatever. They're very much indoctrinated and it's almost cultish, but it's coming from a place of, you've never felt safe before in your life except when you were drunk. We want to teach you a new way to feel safe. And it's a beautiful thing. I mean, they teach how to help you feel safe. Stick with us. Stick with us. Come to these meetings every day. We're going to help you feel safe. We're going to help you choose new directions. We're going to teach you new ways to experience transcendence and spirituality. We're going to give you a God if you can't find one. We're going to give you a whole bunch of options to choose from. You're going to get to find a path toward all that you seek if you stay sober and you stick with us. Stay sober, stick with us. Meeting makers make it. Keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back. So when you're really fragile and you can't make choices, you're in a place of
right.
complete incoherence and certainly not head and heart not connected at that point. You just know you need something. All this is beautiful. It's like, oh my God, is this heaven? Or they think it's crazy and they think it's a cult and they run away. 12 steps do turn off a lot of people too. Not everybody likes those programs, and they do find other ways. And there are other ways to heal from addiction besides the 12 steps. But the 12 steps, they're really good at catching people before they kill themselves.
Yeah.
And giving them a reason to stay alive and giving them comfort and giving them a family-ish feeling like you really belong here. Oh, wow, you did all that. You were in the right place. This is another phrase they say all the time. You're in the right place. You tell them one of your sick stories, one of the awful things you did when you were out there using that you're really not proud of. And they go, what? You're in the right place. Glad you're here. This is where we're going to heal that stuff. Good for you. Good for you. And you get pats on the back for all kinds of stuff. So I think the 12 steps are wonderful for people that are really lost.
Yeah.
I think they collect the lost souls and they do a great job at helping they insist you get a sponsor, and that sponsor is the person that gives you guidance and makes sure you get to meetings and makes sure you work the steps and kind of gives you some structure, around. So everything that they didn't have in their family of origin, they find in AA. They thought they found it with their drinking and drugging and whatever buddies, but then they found out, nope, this really ends up eating me from the inside out. I better find something else. So is addiction to a 12-step program a bad thing? Not if it saves your life.
Right.
How
Yeah,
many
absolutely. Well, it's a step, right? It's a
It's a
step.
step.
It's a
It's a
step.
beautiful, beautiful.
So my question to you, Denise,
Yes.
what's the 13th step?
Well, if you ask someone that's in the 12 steps, they're going to have a different answer than me.
Well, I didn't ask them. I asked you.
All right. The 13th step, the thing there is post 12 step. And that's just being developed and evolving now, what to do when the 12 steps no longer serve. Because I've been sober for 31 years and I was heavily into AA, NA, and Al-Anon for a number of years. And I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that on air, but oh well. Oh well.
This is for entertainment purposes only.
Entertainment only. So I was in it for a long time and I got indoctrinated and I got my life structured and I had people telling me how to do things and who to date and who not to date. My sponsor would say, no, you can't date him. I know him, you can't date him. I go, okay, I won't date him. Okay. In fact, you have no business dating anybody. You're not well enough yet. Okay, I won't date him. I went years of celibacy early on because I was just being told you're not safe yet. You're going to pick the wrong person at this point. Right. So anyway, the point of it all is, after I learned how to feel comfortable in my own skin and I was working really hard keeping my vibration high and changing my self-talk, and my self-talk became a whole lot more positive, and I started getting more deeply into spirituality and tools that were outside of AA that now, AA is pretty cool. I mean, it is a spiritual path. And if people only follow the 12 steps and the 12 traditions of AA as their spiritual path, it works. But you only get so far. Right. After 31 years, I needed something else. So what's the 13th step, or what's the next move? I would call it what's post 12 steps rather than the 13th step, is finding what makes your soul sing, finding programs, finding teachers, finding, for me, a post 12 step experience was doing a boot camp, a spiritual boot camp that took 3 or 4 months. And it was very, very intense. But it was not AA at all. It had nothing to do with the 12 steps or anything. It was about diving deeply into my stuff, getting it on paper, doing a lot of journaling, a lot of meditation, and learning how to reconstruct the default mechanisms that I would continuously fall back into, recognizing them and moving on from them.
So could I say this?
Please.
And just, because I'm stuck on the idea of the 13th step. The 13th step is a transition from trusting the 12-step family, they're there for you, to moving into a place of being there for yourself.
Amen.
Right. So it's like growing up.
It took a lot of words for me to say what you just said in 1 minute. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And taking responsibility for yourself and knowing that nobody else, it was a hard lesson to learn that nobody else could fix me. They both teach that and propagate it at the same time in certain groups. They teach you need us, you got to be here. We're the ones that are going to save your life. And then they tell you, but don't be codependent and don't.
But for some people, that's as far as they can go.
Right.
And it's nice to know that there's a place for that. But there's also, it's not the end all or the be all.
No. And if you listen to Matt Kahn, Abraham Hicks, and Lee Harris.
Lee Harris, right? Yeah.
Lee Harris all have very interesting sort of follow-up ideas for post 12-step people. Abraham Hicks came up with a set of 12 steps that are beautiful. So there's a lot. If anyone is finding that it's too tight of a box, and the 12 steps are too tight of a box, but they've been sober for quite some time, but they want to keep working on their journey, there's loads of stuff out there. There's the New Thought 12 steps. That's the Louise Hay sort of Wayne Dyer kind of new thought movement people. They have a 12-step book. Like I said, Abraham Hicks has a 12-step setup that's amazing. And Matt Kahn was the one that opened my mind to the fact that once you have a certain amount of self-esteem and once you have a certain amount of self-control, and you're no longer acting out in an addictive way that's hurtful to yourself, and you're learning to love yourself, and you're learning to think that you're amazing, why would you ever want to go back to a place where you have to tell somebody you're an addict? Why would you ever want to be there? Because if you have to identify yourself as an addict or an alcoholic, that's a step backwards energetically. So he says, and he also said, why revisit the past? It's over. You've already done that work. You've already done that once. You've done it once. It's good. Everyone agrees that going through the 12 steps exactly the way they are now, at least once, is a good idea, because it helps you release a certain base level of crap and defaults and behaviors and whatnot that needs to be shed. It's very, very valuable for people newly sober, and up to I don't know how many years until it doesn't fit anymore. It's good. But then after that, it's Matt Kahn is a firm believer, and Abraham Hicks is a firm believer. Don't retell your stories anymore. You need to tell them once or twice. They need to be told. You need to process them. Yes, they do need that. Once you've done it, stop. No longer go back to that stuff.
Well, of all the things, and again, I don't really have any, I only, it's like what I've seen on TV, right? Or what other people talk about. But
Mhm.
it's like, to me, that whole rehashing of, oh, you did a terrible thing. Oh, well, my stuff is even worse, terrible. And then, and it's just like, and it becomes like a badge of honor, and to
Well,
me,
there are some meetings that are very forward moving and healing oriented and that kind of thing. And then there are some meetings where they call it stand up meetings, where these people come up and they go, I was living in the gutter and eating out of dumpsters and robbing people and doing all, and they talk with great pride about how they did it. Now, the pride to me is in the survival. I think it's great that they're proud of themselves for surviving. That I honor them for, but the details are downers. The details, I don't need them. I don't want to hear them. It makes me ill to think of that there are people out there acting in these ways, that I don't need to hear that. And
yeah, and
you have no
again,
control over what you hear at a meeting either.
well, and again, I'm only seeing what I see on TV, quite
Mhm.
frankly, because I've never been to a meeting. I haven't, if I have an addiction, it's probably, to books, but information. But my biggest addiction, of course, is food, and food. When you have that stress and you eat that thing that you love, there's that feeling at the like.
Well, it's very grounding. It gets you out of your
Well,
head and into your belly.
the one thing that I don't think I've done yet, and maybe I won't ever do it, which is fine with me, is beat myself up for eating it.
Wow, that's awesome. I just watched an Abraham Hicks video the other day, and you know what she said? Someone asked, what are the best foods to keep your vibration high? She completely didn't talk about specific foods. What she said was, I would be more concerned about how you feel when you're ingesting the food, where your energy is at while you're ingesting the food. I would pay attention to appreciating the food that you're about to eat for whatever reason you're eating it, and say, "Oh, this is lovely. This was made so nicely. This was grown by some farmer that really cared." Or, "Oh, the Miss Debbie company. I wonder, wow, this looks tasty. I'm going to try this. This is going to taste good in my mouth," and feel good about whatever you're eating and appreciate it. Think a thought that's of appreciation before you eat anything. That energy goes into the food,
Right.
and then you ingest it. So she said people are in more danger of eating food with negativity, like, oh no, with guilt, with shame, or whatever. That's more damaging than eating a Twinkie or 10 Twinkies. Like, if you eat 10 Twinkies and you appreciate everything about those freaking Twinkies, they're not going to hurt you. And she refused to even get into the not cannibal. Oh my God. No,
Vegetarian.
vegetarian versus carnivore. Carnivore, that's the word I'm looking for. She wouldn't even entertain that. She said, I stick to, this is an energetic relationship. If your energy is in alignment with what you're eating, and you have appreciation for what you're eating, you will remain healthy. And as you get stronger in your own vibration and your own vibration rises, you will find yourself finding more pleasure in healthier foods.
Right.
And
Right.
it's just an evolution. She said, it's just let it happen. Don't make it happen and don't feel bad about anything. Don't judge yourself. That's the creator never judges you. Your highest self never judges you. When you judge yourself, you're getting yourself into a toxic space. So
It's your lower mind that judges you.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And judges food and judges other people for what they eat. And, it's a whole, and this could be applied to any number of different topics.
Well, I think that, I also had my teacher, and when I say my teacher, this particular teacher was John DeMartini, um, who is a great philosopher and a chiropractor, and is actually in The Secret. He's in The Secret, but
Oh,
he says that
Esther Hicks was written out of The Secret.
because I mean, I think that was Abraham was actually the beginning.
Abraham was the beginning of Abraham came up with the whole thing,
Wow.
and then it was kind of taken hostage and changed, and things had to change. But anyway, go ahead.
He would, what would he say? You can't heal somebody you judge. And so
Mhm.
a lot of healers have to go through a lot of these different experiences. My
Yes,
experience with Lyme, your experience with addiction. So we have walked the path. We've walked in those moccasins, and
yes.
we can have compassion. And
I would like to say too, I would like to include compassion for people no matter what they eat. I think what people eat needs not to be anybody else's business. I think that it's an individual journey, and there are so many vegans out there that are just trashing meat eaters, and any kind of judgment like that is not
right,
fair.
right.
It's not kind, it's not humane, it's not compassionate, it's not fair. And that's a judgment on my part. That's also a
Well,
judgment. But I feel that let's all just leave each other alone. Let each other eat whatever the heck they want, do whatever they want, because that's what they're here for. You're here to do what you need to do, and I'm here I need to do.
and I think that's the value of information.
Mhm.
I have a brother-in-law who, if you met him, you'd say, "Oh, he's like a man's man. He has a truck. He's just like a guy's guy." He's like a vegan now because he watched a video on the way they process food and treat animals and all that.
Oh, see, the animal abuse stuff really gets to me.
And so I can't remember what it was that it was like a video, I think. And now he's much healthier. He had diabetes before, he no longer has diabetes.
Um,
So he has.
He evolved into a place where he organically started making choices. He learned some stuff that resonated. That message resonated. He followed that gently into a logical place for him that worked for him, and he made big changes in his life. That's how it works.
Right, and
That's how it
that
works.
that we were talking about vegans judging meat eaters and all this other stuff. I think it's just a lack of awareness on the part of, like, the vegans know what happens to the animals. That's why they're vegans. And if people don't know, or if people don't want to go there, you can't really force them, right?
I think being an informed eater, learning about all the various ways to eat and finding what resonates for you and following that path is a great thing. And if you see a video that's very disturbing about how animals are raised for meat products to put in the stores, and you feel a real strong calling toward vegetarianism or veganism, good for you. I think it's
Yeah,
fabulous.
absolutely.
There are some people that have been vegans and have gotten ill and realized that there are certain nutrients in certain meats that their body needs. It's just they feel better and they feel of a higher vibration when they eat a certain amount of meat. Personally, I eat vegetarian just because this works for me, not because I'm a big like 3 or 4 days a week, and I eat meat 2 or 3 days a week, and I usually only eat chicken or fish. Maybe once a week at most, I eat beef. Works for me. I feel best when this is how I eat. Now, I am concerned about animal cruelty. So I buy cage-free eggs. I buy grass-fed poultry. I buy beef that doesn't none of them can have hormones and steroids. I don't want that stuff in my body. I know what steroids in my body feels like. I was put on prednisone. It can't be good. So, I'm a mindful eater, but I'm not married to a particular diet.
Right.
I just eat what feels good.
I think that it's important to be educated
Mhm.
about your food sources. And
Yeah.
then there's also availability, there's not, if you're poor, you don't have availability to fresh things. You're
Mhm.
generally, and
My food bill, my food bill has gone way up since I went cage-free, vegetarian fed, grass fed, all that. It's very expensive and it's not tenable for people that are really,
well, there's even the question for a lot of people of whether it's available to them. I mean, if you live in the inner city, in a depressed area, getting fresh fruit and even decent, like there's just it's more expensive, it's lesser quality. You're not educated about it. You don't even, and because you're not getting the nutrients, sometimes you don't even have the brain power to
And
grow.
people wonder why people that are maybe find themselves in lower economic areas, why are they getting big? Why are they putting on weight? Well, they're not getting fruits and vegetables and other foods that satisfy them. They're never satisfied. So
They
they
get highly,
overeat. They overeat the stuff they can afford.
well, and they're getting processed food,
Right.
which doesn't have the nutrients.
Right. They're not
And
getting
so
enough
so
nutrients.
so a lot of fat
The body is crying for more nutrients, and instead they take more food.
Right. And that's true of America. That why do you think, we get this like fat American thing? And
Yeah.
if you look, it's interesting, and I wasn't going to go here, but I saw this and I feel like I need to mention it. I was in the doctor's office one day, my mother's doctor. I was just sitting there waiting for them to call us in. And there was this thing about obesity in America, and it showed the distribution of obesity and how it distributed. And it actually began along the Mississippi River. And the further down you got the Mississippi River, the more obese people there were.
Really?
And one of the issues with pesticides is that most pesticides are hormone disruptors. And
Right.
so it actually creates this it creates a population. And many years ago, my girlfriend got married. Um, she got married. No, I'm trying to remember who got married. I don't know why I was at this wedding, but it was, and I don't, because it was so long ago. I can't remember. It was like 30 years ago. There was all these people from Iowa at the wedding, and the women were enormous. There were all these like, the women were 300 pounds and the men were all little stick figures. And I was taken aback, but it was like Iowa is like where they grow the corn and where the pesticides are. And it has one of the highest cancer rates. Did you know that Iowa has one of the highest cancer rates?
Any cornfields that are not organic and use pesticides, that's the
Most corn
problem.
is
I
GMO.
don't eat corn anymore.
It's called ready. What are they? Roundup Ready corn.
Roundup.
Roundup Ready corn. There's actually Roundup in the corn. But these things are things that you have to look for.
Right.
Luckily, with the internet, we do have more access to information, but then you always have to be careful about the information you're getting, because it has to be real, right? It has to be real. So,
And
um,
we have more privilege. Upper classes and particularly white people, have more access to internet, have more access to
there's that
fast,
too.
ready information. So, there we go. The privileged people get more, and underprivileged people don't have access. It's
Right.
another.
And that's one of the things with this conjunction that we started the talk with in Aquarius. It's really about creating a society where the playing field is leveled, so everybody has equal access to. I mean, can you imagine if everybody had equal access to even what we have? What a much better world we would live in.
Yes.
what people would be able to actualize themselves. They'd be able to get the education they need. They'd be able to get and be more creative and be more entrepreneurial and be
Right.
more, and work together in groups to make things better. That is our future. And I'm seeing it happen. I'm feeling it happen.
Mhm.
We're just at the beginning stages of that. So
Right. Well, God bless Bernie Sanders. He didn't become president, but he brought so much awareness to the unfair distribution of resources.
yes,
He brought such beautiful awareness, and awareness is the beginning of healing.
that's right.
So,
You
if you
don't
don't have,
know.
if you don't
You don't
know,
know, you can't change.
and
You
if you
know?
don't know what you don't know, you can't change. You
Yeah.
don't even know what you don't know. So never mind. No, so Bernie, God bless his soul. He's done his job. And I'm kind of glad he's not president, because he's in the Senate giving him hell right now.
Well,
God bless his soul.
you thank God for, and me. Well, of course, let's see. I have Bernie right here, always near me. So
Love you, Burn. I'm
yeah.
feeling the burn.
But we do also have to give credit where credit is due. Trump also cracked the
Oh,
code.
he cracked things open in a different way. He
Yeah,
certainly did. He
yeah,
cracked open what needs to be healed. He's showing us in no uncertain terms what needs to change. We know. Now we know. We know some
yes,
things that need to
yeah.
change. And look at what's happened since just since he was president, just in the past year, actually, since COVID. There's been a huge light shown upon gun violence by police, and a huge the Me Too movement thing that happened during his presidency.
Mhm.
So people are
Yeah,
rising.
all of it was under the cover, like everything was in process.
Oh,
And what
sure.
he did was he just, it feels like, yes, he blew it up. He blew it up. And then it all came and rose up because I don't think we've ever had somebody so abhorrent to push against
Well,
in this
he
country.
highlighted and illuminated and magnified all the crap old systems that no longer serve, and
Well,
he
served,
poked the,
well, they served, but they
well,
only
they serve the billionaires, the
served a few
multi-billionaires.
people, right? And so now it's time for us and not fight amongst each other, but to
No.
cooperate, to talk to one another,
Mhm.
because they know, those in power, that if we're constantly doing this with each other, then they get to,
Well,
run.
while we're fighting amongst each other,
They're running.
they're going through the back door to get legislation for legislation for the billionaires and for the privileged.
Mhm.
So, what a great talk this has been.
Been
I've
fun.
enjoyed this
Keep
so
fun
much.
all over the place. All
But
right.
I think there was a coherent I think it was a coherent movement though. Energy.
Always. Always.
Yeah.
That's why we just follow where it's going to take us.
When
We
I turned
not always have
Capricorn partway through, I just wanted to make sure we had enough time I knew there was something else we needed to talk about, and I wanted to give us, I was that controlling? Was I rude when I did that?
You were just being a Capricorn. You're saying, well, Capricorn rules time, so it's okay.
Well, yeah,
Hey, you know me, I won't judge you for being a Capricorn.
I hope nobody else does too, but
Oh, who cares?
it takes
As
us
long as
all, it
you
takes
don't judge,
12,
as long as you don't judge yourself, don't worry about other people.
amen to that. And
Hallelujah.
it takes 12 signs to run a world, right?
That's right.
There's something about each one of us that this world needs, and we all have
And
a valuable purpose.
we all have it within us anyway. It's
Yes,
just
we
that
do.
sometimes things get stressed more than others. And
Amen
you
to
just
that.
happen to be a Capricorn.
Final words, Vicki?
Um, yeah, let's see. As we move forward into our collective future, let's learn to love and accept one another for where we're at, and to not have that be the reason that we love or don't love somebody.
Amen to that. That's beautiful. I would like to highlight that by saying radical love, radical acceptance. Go to the nth degree to not judge, and especially yourself.
Especially,
And radical acceptance is not easy. So God bless everybody.
what's that old expression? Charity begins at home, right? Be
Yes.
charitable to yourself.
Amen to that. Thank you.
Much love, honey. I will
Love to
see you.
you. Love to everybody.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.